Picture this. You are sitting in your living room, watching your daughter cry through the window. Her treehouse, her special place, her sanctuary where we spent countless hours building memories together, now occupied by a woman who has declared herself the neighborhood police. Corinne Miller sits in my daughter's treehouse like a queen on her throne. She has her phone out, broadcasting live to her social media followers about how she is protecting the community from dangerous structures. Her cronies stand guard in my backyard like soldiers defending conquered territory. My hands shake as I stare at the small black remote control on my kitchen counter. The remote that controls something Corinne has no idea about. The secret that will turn her moment of triumph into her greatest humiliation. She thinks she has won. She thinks she has broken our family and crushed our dreams. But Corinne Miller has no idea what she has just walked into. 6 months ago, we moved to Maple Grove Estates with big dreams and even bigger plans. My daughter Emma was 8 years old, and I wanted to give her something special. Something that would make our new house feel like home. I am a software engineer by trade, but I have always loved building things with my hands. When Emma asked if we could build a treehouse in our backyard, I saw an opportunity to create something extraordinary. Not just any treehouse, but the ultimate treehouse. A technological marvel that would be the envy of every kid in the neighborhood. The planning took weeks. I sketched designs on napkins during lunch breaks. I researched materials online late into the night. This was not going to be some basic wooden platform nailed between branches. This treehouse would have everything. Solar panels for power, LED lighting for evening adventures, even a small sound system for Emma's music. But the real secret, the feature that would make this treehouse truly unique, was something I kept to myself. I designed it with motorized wheels and a remote control system. The entire structure could move around our large backyard at the push of a button. It was engineering overkill, but I wanted Emma to have something magical. The construction took 3 months of weekends. Emma helped with every step, holding tools and painting walls. She watched with wonder as I installed the GPS tracking system and programmed the motion sensors. When I explained how the solar panels would power everything, her eyes lit up like Christmas morning. "Dad, this is going to be the coolest treehouse ever," she said, paint smudged on her cheek. I smiled and ruffled her hair. "That is the idea, kiddo." The day we finished, Emma climbed up the rope ladder and disappeared inside. I heard her gasp of delight as she discovered the LED lights, the built-in tablet holder, and the small refrigerator I had secretly installed. She poked her head out the window with the biggest smile I had ever seen. "Thank you, Dad, this is perfect." Those words made every late night and every sore muscle worth it. This treehouse represented more than just a play structure. It was our bond, our shared accomplishment, our proof that creativity and determination could build something amazing. For the first few weeks, life was perfect. Emma spent every afternoon in her treehouse, reading books and having tea parties with her stuffed animals. On weekends, we would sit up there together, watching the sunset and talking about her dreams for the future. The neighbors seemed friendly enough, though I noticed they all kept their yards perfectly manicured and their houses painted in approved colors. There were subtle hints about community standards and property values, but I figured every neighborhood had its quirks. I should have paid more attention to those hints. I should have realized that in a place like Maple Grove Estates, being different was not just discouraged, it was dangerous. The storm clouds were gathering, and I had no idea that our beautiful treehouse had just painted a target on our backs. Corinne Miller introduced herself on a Tuesday morning while I was checking my mailbox. She appeared beside me like she had materialized from thin air, clipboard in hand, and a smile that never reached her eyes. "You must be the new neighbor," she said, extending a perfectly manicured hand. "I am Karen Miller, HOA board member and neighborhood watch coordinator." She was exactly what you would expect from someone with those titles. Middle-aged, with short blonde hair styled in that aggressive soccer mom cut. She wore a pastel pink tracksuit and walked with the confident stride of someone who had never been told no. "Nice to meet you," I replied, shaking her hand. "I am David." Karen's eyes immediately locked onto our backyard, where Emma's treehouse stood proud among the oak trees. Her smile faltered for just a moment before snapping back into place. "That is quite an interesting addition to your property," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Very creative." The way she said creative made it sound like a disease. Over the next few days, Karen began showing up regularly. She would walk her tiny dog past our house multiple times a day, always slowing down to stare at the treehouse. She started with passive-aggressive comments to other neighbors within earshot. "I just worry about the aesthetic," I heard her tell Mrs. Henderson from next door. "We work so hard to maintain our property values." Then came the direct confrontation. Karen knocked on our door on a Saturday morning while Emma was playing in the treehouse. I could hear my daughter's laughter floating down from above, and it made me smile. "We need to talk about that structure," Karen said, pointing toward the backyard. "It does not fit the neighborhood guidelines." I kept my voice calm and reasonable. "It is a treehouse. Kids have been building treehouses for generations." "Not like that one," Karen replied, pulling out her phone to show me photos she had taken. "It is too large, too elaborate, and frankly, it is an eyesore." I looked at the photos and felt my jaw clench. She had been documenting our treehouse from every angle like she was building a legal case. "I have checked the HOA bylaws," I said. "There is nothing that prohibits tree houses." Karen's smile turned predatory. "Oh, but there are rules about structures that exceed certain height limits, rules about electrical installations without permits, rules about potential safety hazards." That is when I realized this woman was not just complaining, she was hunting. Over the following week, Karen's campaign escalated. She filed noise complaints about Emma playing in the treehouse. She measured our property lines with surveying equipment, looking for any possible encroachment. She brought other board members to inspect the structure from the street. I tried to reason with her. I offered to make modifications. I even suggested we could discuss reasonable compromises. But Karen was not interested in solutions. She was interested in victory. The breaking point came on a Thursday evening. Karen appeared at our door with an official-looking document and two other board members flanking her like bodyguards. "This is an official violation notice," she announced, thrusting the papers at me. "You have 30 days to remove that structure, or you will face escalating fines and potential legal action." I stared at the document, my hands trembling with anger. "This is ridiculous. It is a treehouse in my own backyard." "It is a code violation," Karen replied coldly, "and I will not allow one family's poor judgment to impact our entire community." As she walked away, I realized I was not dealing with a reasonable person. I was dealing with a neighborhood dictator who saw our creativity as a threat to her control. The war had officially begun. The violation notice was just the beginning. Over the next 2 weeks, our mailbox became a daily delivery point for HOA harassment. Official letters arrived every few days, each one more threatening than the last. Second notice, failure to comply with removal order. Final warning, legal action pending. Lien filing, scheduled for property. I spent my evenings researching HOA bylaws, zoning regulations, and property rights. The dining room table became my war room, covered with printed documents, highlighted passages, and legal research. I was looking for loopholes, precedents, anything that could protect our treehouse. What I discovered was disturbing. The HOA bylaws were written in deliberately vague language that could be interpreted to prohibit almost anything. Words like reasonable, appropriate, and community standards appeared throughout the document without clear definitions. Karen had weaponized this ambiguity perfectly. I called a lawyer friend from college who specialized in property law. Mark listened to my situation and sighed heavily. "David, these HOA cases are nightmares," he explained. "They have unlimited legal budgets funded by homeowner fees. They can drag you through court for years, even if you are technically in the right. So what do you recommend?" "Honestly, take the treehouse down and build something smaller. It is not worth the fight." I hung up feeling defeated. That night, I found Emma sitting at her bedroom window, staring out at her treehouse with tears in her eyes. "Dad, why does that lady want to take away my treehouse?" she asked. I sat beside her, struggling to find words that would make sense to an 8-year-old. "Some people think that being different is bad, sweetheart. They want everyone to be exactly the same." "But why? It does not hurt anyone." That innocent question hit me like a punch to the gut. She was right. Our treehouse harmed no one. It brought joy to our daughter and creativity to our neighborhood. But Karen saw it as a threat to her vision of suburban perfection. The harassment escalated beyond just legal threats. Karen recruited allies among the board members and neighbors. I started receiving calls from other homeowners who had been educated about the dangers our treehouse posed to property values. "I am sorry, David," said Tom from down the street. "Karen showed us the photos. That thing is pretty overwhelming." Even worse, Karen began targeting Emma directly. When my daughter played outside, Karen would appear with her measuring tape and camera, documenting every moment. She filed noise complaints about children playing. She claimed Emma's laughter was disruptive to the peaceful enjoyment of neighboring properties. The financial pressure was mounting too. The threatened fines started small but escalated quickly. $500 for the first violation, $1,000 for the second. The numbers grew exponentially, designed to force compliance through economic warfare. My wife Sarah and I argued about the situation every night. She wanted to avoid confrontation and find a peaceful solution. I was becoming increasingly angry at the injustice of it all. "Maybe we should just modify it," Sarah suggested. "Make it smaller, less elaborate." "No," I replied firmly. "We did nothing wrong. Emma loves that treehouse. It is our property and we built it with our own hands." But privately, I was starting to doubt myself. The legal costs were mounting. The stress was affecting our family. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe I should just give up and tear down Emma's treehouse. Then Karen made her biggest mistake. She scheduled an official HOA hearing to force immediate removal of the treehouse. The hearing would be held at the community center, with all board members present. It was designed to be a public humiliation, a show trial that would send a message to other homeowners about challenging Karen's authority. The notification letter was delivered by certified mail, requiring my signature. As I signed for it, I realized that Karen had pushed this fight beyond reason. She was not just targeting our treehouse anymore. She was targeting our family, our dignity, and our right to exist peacefully in our own home. That night, I made a decision. I would not back down. I would not let Karen crush our creativity and terrorize our daughter. But I also realized that fighting Karen through conventional legal channels was hopeless. She had rigged the system in her favor. I needed a different strategy. I needed to think like an engineer and find a solution that Karen would never see coming. As I stared at the remote control in my desk drawer, a plan began to form. The HOA hearing was scheduled for a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. I woke up early, put on my best suit, and prepared to defend our treehouse in front of the kangaroo court Karen had assembled. But when I looked out the kitchen window, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Karen was in our backyard. She was not alone. 3 other people were with her, including 2 men I recognized as HOA board members. They had somehow gotten past our fence and were setting up what looked like a command post beneath Emma's treehouse. I rushed outside, my heart pounding with rage and disbelief. "What are you doing on my property?" I demanded. Karen turned to face me with that same predatory smile. She was holding a clipboard and wearing a bright yellow safety vest like she was conducting an official inspection. "We are securing this dangerous structure pending the hearing," she announced. "The board has determined that this treehouse poses an imminent safety hazard to the community." "Get off my property right now," I said, pulling out my phone to call the police. "Actually, we have full authority to be here," Karen replied, producing an official-looking document. "Emergency powers granted by the HOA Safety Committee. This structure will remain under our supervision until it is professionally dismantled." I stared at the document, trying to process what was happening. The language was full of legal jargon about imminent danger and community protection, but it was essentially a home invasion disguised as bureaucratic procedure. "You cannot just occupy my backyard," I protested. "We are not occupying anything," Karen said sweetly. "We are protecting the community." That is when she did the unthinkable. Karen climbed the rope ladder and disappeared into Emma's treehouse. The 2 board members positioned themselves at the base like guards, while the third person began setting up a camera. I called 911, but the dispatcher seemed confused by my complaint. "So someone is in your treehouse without permission?" she asked. "Yes, they are trespassing on my property." "Are they causing damage or threatening violence?" I looked at Karen's supporters standing calmly in my backyard, clipboards in hand and official vests on their backs. They looked like safety inspectors, not criminals. "No, but they are refusing to leave." "Sir, this sounds like a civil dispute. You might want to contact a lawyer." By the time I hung up, Karen had made herself comfortable in the treehouse. She was broadcasting live on her phone, narrating her occupation like she was a war correspondent reporting from a dangerous zone. "I am here inside this unlawful structure," she said into her camera. "As you can see, there are serious safety violations, electrical components without proper permits, structural elements that could collapse at any moment." The lies flowed from her mouth like water. She pointed at Emma's LED lights and called them fire hazards. She claimed the solar panels were improperly installed and the built-in furniture was unstable. My daughter came outside to see what was happening. When she saw strangers in her treehouse, she started crying. "Dad, why are they in my special place?" Emma asked through her tears. I knelt down and hugged her, trying to shield her from the insanity unfolding in our backyard. "Some people make very bad choices, sweetheart, but we are going to fix this." Karen's live stream was gaining viewers. I could hear her reading comments from supporters who praised her for standing up to entitled homeowners and protecting community standards. She was turning our family's nightmare into social media entertainment. The situation escalated when more neighbors arrived. Some came to support Karen, nodding approvingly at her safety concerns. Others seemed uncomfortable with the occupation but were too intimidated to speak up. By noon, Karen had declared that the treehouse would remain under HOA control indefinitely. She rotated shifts with her supporters, ensuring someone was always present to monitor the situation. This structure will not be used by anyone until it is properly removed, she announced from the treehouse window like she was addressing her subjects. I stood in my own backyard, watching strangers occupy my daughter's playhouse, and felt a rage I had never experienced before. This was not about HOA bylaws or community standards. This was about power, control, and the complete destruction of our family's happiness. That evening, after Karen's supporters had finally left, and she had climbed down from the treehouse, she approached me with a final ultimatum. "This can all end very simply," she said. "Tear down the treehouse, pay the accumulated fines, and we can put this unpleasantness behind us." I looked at her standing in my backyard, surrounded by the mess her occupation had created, and realized that conventional rules no longer applied. Karen had escalated this fight beyond all reason. She had invaded our home, terrorized our daughter, and turned our neighbors against us. It was time to fight back with weapons she did not know existed. That night, after Emma was asleep and Karen's supporters had gone home, I sat in my garage staring at the engineering plans for the treehouse. Plans that contained features Karen had no idea about. The motorized wheel system, the remote control mobility, the GPS tracking and motion sensors. Every innovation I had built into that treehouse to make it special for Emma was about to become the instrument of Karen's downfall. I had originally designed the mobility system as a fun surprise for Emma. Imagine her delight when she discovered her treehouse could move around the backyard like a magical fort. The wheels were hidden beneath the structure, powered by the same solar panel system that ran the lights. The remote control had a range of over 200 feet and could move the entire treehouse at speeds up to 5 miles per hour. It was engineering overkill for a child's playhouse, but I had wanted to create something extraordinary. Now, that extraordinary engineering was about to serve a very different purpose. I called my lawyer friend Mark and explained what Karen had done. His response was immediate and angry. "David, what she did sounds like criminal trespassing. The HOA does not have the right to occupy your property, regardless of what their documents say. So I can legally remove them. You can call the police and file charges. But honestly, given how she has positioned this as a safety issue, it might be hard to get immediate enforcement." I paused, choosing my words carefully. What if I activated the mobility features while they are in the treehouse? Would that be legal? Mark was quiet for a moment. "You mean move your own treehouse around your own property using features you built into it?" "Exactly. I cannot see any legal problem with that. It is your property, your structure, and your technology. As long as you are not endangering anyone or causing damage, you have the right to operate equipment on your own land." That was all I needed to hear. I spent the next day carefully planning the operation. I charged the treehouse batteries to full capacity. I tested the remote control system to ensure everything was working perfectly. I positioned cameras around the backyard to record whatever happened. Most importantly, I studied Karen's routine. She arrived every morning at 9 o'clock sharp, climbed into the treehouse, and began her daily performance of neighborhood protection. She usually stayed for 2 to 3 hours, broadcasting live to her growing social media following. The plan was simple but elegant. Wait for Karen to get comfortable in her stolen throne, then activate the mobility system. The treehouse would begin moving slowly around the backyard, giving Karen the ride of her life while demonstrating that she had severely underestimated her opponent. I tested the route multiple times, ensuring the path was safe and the movement would be smooth. The treehouse would roll in a large circle around our backyard, stopping at strategic points to maximize Karen's confusion and embarrassment. On Thursday morning, I watched from my kitchen window as Karen arrived right on schedule. She climbed into the treehouse with the confidence of someone who believed she had already won. Her phone came out immediately, and she began her daily broadcast. "Good morning, everyone. I am back inside the dangerous structure, continuing my vigil to protect our community." I picked up the remote control and felt its weight in my hands. This small device represented months of engineering work, countless hours of programming, and the key to everything Karen had tried to destroy. My finger hovered over the activation button. Once I pressed it, there would be no going back. Karen would learn that underestimating people and their capabilities can lead to spectacular consequences. I thought about Emma's tears. I thought about the sleepless nights and the legal threats. I thought about Karen's smug face as she occupied our daughter's special place. Then I pressed the button. The first thing Karen noticed was a gentle vibration. She paused mid-sentence in her live broadcast and looked around with confusion. "That is strange," she said to her phone camera. "The structure seems to be." Then the treehouse began to move. At first, it was just a subtle shift, like the feeling of being on a boat in gentle waves. But within seconds, the entire structure was rolling smoothly across our backyard, carrying Karen along for the ride. Her reaction was immediate and spectacular. The confident neighborhood enforcer who had terrorized our family for weeks suddenly became a panicked passenger on a ride she could not control. "What is happening?" she screamed into her phone. "This thing is moving. It is actually moving." I stood at my kitchen window, remote control in hand, watching Karen's world turn upside down. The treehouse moved at a steady pace, following the programmed route I had designed. The solar-powered motors operated silently, giving the movement an almost magical quality. Karen's supporters on the ground were just as shocked. The two board members who had been standing guard beneath the treehouse found themselves chasing after it as it rolled toward the far corner of our yard. "How is this possible?" one of them shouted. "Make it stop," Karen yelled from inside the treehouse. "Somebody make it stop." But I was the only one who could stop it, and I was not ready to stop it yet. The treehouse completed its first lap around the backyard and began a second circuit. Karen's panic was escalating with each passing moment. She was gripping the window frame and screaming at her phone. "This is an emergency. The structure is out of control. Someone call 911. Her live stream was attracting viewers by the hundreds. The comments were flooding in faster than she could read them, and they were not the supportive messages she was used to receiving. "This is hilarious. Karen got Karened. Best revenge video ever." Neighbors began gathering in their yards to witness the spectacle. Word was spreading quickly through the community that something extraordinary was happening at the house with the controversial treehouse. I guided the treehouse to its first strategic stop, positioning it directly in front of the Johnsons' house next door. Karen was now clearly visible to a growing crowd of onlookers, trapped inside a child's playhouse that had somehow come to life. "Please," she begged into her phone, "somebody help me get down from here." But nobody could help her. The treehouse was 12 feet off the ground and the rope ladder was moving with the structure. Corinne was completely at my mercy, and we both knew it. I activated the next phase of the route. The treehouse began moving again, this time heading toward the front yard where even more neighbors could see Corinne's predicament. Her phone calls were frantic now. I could hear her trying to reach police, HOA officials, and anyone else who might be able to rescue her from the mobile prison she had created for herself. "This is Corinne Miller," she said breathlessly into her phone. "I need immediate assistance. I am trapped in a moving treehouse and cannot get down." The response from the 911 dispatcher was apparently not what she hoped for, because her face turned red with frustration. "No, I am not joking. The treehouse is actually moving around the yard by itself." The absurdity of her situation was becoming clear to everyone watching. The woman who had terrorized our family with bureaucratic bullying was now begging for help from inside a child's toy that had outsmarted her. I moved the treehouse to its final position, directly in the center of our backyard, where the maximum number of neighbors could see Corinne's humiliation. Then I let it sit there, stationary but still obviously under remote control. Corinne's live stream had attracted over 1,000 viewers. The comments were brutal, and her supporters had completely abandoned her. The narrative had shifted from brave community protector to foolish woman trapped by her own arrogance. After 30 minutes of this public embarrassment, Corinne finally understood what had happened. She looked directly at our kitchen window where I was standing and saw me holding the remote control. "You," she screamed, "you did this, you built this thing too. She could not finish the sentence because the reality was too humiliating to admit. She had been outsmarted by the very innovation she had tried to destroy. The treehouse she had called dangerous and illegal had just demonstrated capabilities far beyond her comprehension. As I prepared to activate the final phase of my plan, I saw something in Corinne's eyes that I had never seen before. Fear, and for the first time in weeks, respect. The ride was finally over. I pressed the remote control one last time, and the treehouse gently rolled back to its original position among the oak trees. The motors stopped, the movement ceased, and Corinne Miller was left sitting in stunned silence 12 feet above the ground. It took her several minutes to work up the courage to climb down the rope ladder. When she finally reached the ground, her legs were shaking and her face was pale. The confident neighborhood dictator who had terrorized our family was gone, replaced by a woman who had just learned a very expensive lesson about underestimating people. The crowd of neighbors who had gathered to watch the spectacle began to disperse, but not before several of them approached me with new expressions of respect and curiosity. "That was incredible," said Tom from down the street, the same neighbor who had supported Corinne's campaign just days earlier. "How did you build something like that?" "Engineering," I replied simply, "and a lot of late nights in the garage." Corinne's supporters melted away like ice in summer heat. The board members who had helped her occupy our backyard suddenly remembered they had other obligations. Her social media followers were abandoning her live stream in favor of commenting on the viral videos that were already spreading across the internet. Within hours, Moving Treehouse Corinne was trending on multiple platforms. The story of a HOA bully getting her comeuppance through superior engineering captured imaginations worldwide. But more importantly, it captured the attention of local authorities. The police finally took our trespassing complaint seriously when they saw the video evidence of Corinne's occupation. The district attorney's office reviewed the case and filed charges against Karen and her co-conspirators for criminal trespassing and harassment. The HOA was forced to conduct an emergency board meeting to address the situation. Faced with potential legal liability and public embarrassment, they voted to remove Karen from the board and revise their bylaws to prevent future abuse of power. Karen's resignation letter was brief and bitter. Due to personal circumstances, I am stepping down from my position on the HOA board effective immediately. But the real victory came 3 days later when Emma climbed back into her treehouse for the first time since the occupation. She had been afraid to go near it while strangers were inside, but now she reclaimed her special place with renewed joy. "Dad, can you make it move again?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I activated the mobility system, and we took a gentle tour around the backyard together. Emma laughed with delight as her treehouse rolled past the flower beds and around the swing set. This time, the movement was what it was always meant to be, pure magic for a child who deserved to have extraordinary things in her life. The story spread throughout our community and beyond. Other families began reaching out, asking for advice on dealing with HOA bullies and requesting engineering consultations for their own creative projects. I started a small side business, helping homeowners design innovative solutions that technically complied with restrictive bylaws while still allowing for creativity and fun. My first client was Mrs. Henderson next door, who wanted help building a garden maze that would frustrate the new HOA inspectors. 6 months later, Karen approached me at the grocery store. She looked different somehow, smaller and less aggressive than the woman who had once terrorized our family. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. "What I did was wrong. I got carried away with the power and forgot that we are all neighbors trying to make good homes for our families." I looked at her for a long moment, remembering the fear and anger she had caused. But I also remembered the lesson my daughter had taught me about forgiveness and moving forward. "Thank you," I said. "That means a lot." Karen nodded and walked away, and I never saw her bothering another neighbor again. Our treehouse still sits among the oak trees in our backyard, though it rarely needs to move anymore. Its reputation is enough to deter most would-be bullies. Emma plays there every day, sometimes joined by neighborhood friends who beg for rides on the magic treehouse. The real magic, though, is not in the engineering or the remote control. It is in the lesson we all learned about standing up to bullies, protecting what matters most, and never underestimating the power of creativity to overcome oppression. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense, and sometimes justice comes with wheels and a remote control.